So the Nintendo Switch 2 just got a major report published from what I would say is the most mainstream news source we've seen talk about this yet, as we now have a CNBC article actually talking about the Nintendo Switch 2 being expected to launch this year in 2024, and specifically outlining what to expect from this console. And we're going to break down the sources behind this and whether or not this really kind of tells us any more information than we already know if you've been keeping up with all of the leaks and rumors and reports. But it is interesting to see such a massive publication, a traditional media outlet that does cover the stock market and new tech and all of the major developments happening in the world, and now we're seeing headlines of Switch 2 even on this website. So make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on your bell notification to join Sunbro Nation if you're new here. And with that, you can see the following article posted up over on CNBC, which reads, Nintendo is expected to launch the Switch 2 console this year. Here's what to expect. Nintendo is likely to release a new Switch console this year, analysts told CNBC. The Nintendo Switch first launched in March of 2017 and marked a new type of hybrid console where gamers could play on both their TVs and on the go. But with slowing sales, Nintendo needs a new console dubbed the Switch 2 to keep momentum going, especially as interest in its characters like Mario and Zelda remains high. Since the Switch's launch, Nintendo's shares are up more than 200%. The console has helped the company sustain sales momentum over the years thanks to its steady and strong stream of first-party games and popular characters. But there are signs that sales are starting to slow and Nintendo needs something new. In its September quarterly results, Nintendo said revenue fell 4% year on year and profit dropped 19%. I think the new device will come out in 2024, probably in the second half of the year, Sir Trentendo, CEO of Tokyo-based games consultancy Kantan Games, told CNBC. The original Switch is now almost 7 years old, sales are going down, so it's absolutely high time for a new Nintendo Switch system this year. Piers Harding-Rolls, research director of games at Ampere Analyst, expects the launch of the new Switch in the fourth quarter of this year. For Atu Goyle, managing director at Jefferies, the timing of the launch will depend on recent sales. If the Switch remained popular in the holiday quarter, then Nintendo could push a new console out to the fall of this year, Goyle said. If Switch sales dropped in the December quarter, the new device could come as early as spring or summer, he added. Nintendo has not announced its December quarterly results yet. Launching a new console this year will also allow Nintendo to capitalize on the popularity of a number of its key characters following movie releases. The Super Mario Bros. Movie has raked in more than $1 billion in box office sales since its April release and helped Nintendo see a bump in revenue in the June quarter of last year. In November, Nintendo said it plans to develop a live-action film of The Legend of Zelda, one of its most popular characters. Now, first and foremost, we have to outline that very last statement within the article where it says Nintendo said it plans to develop a live-action film of The Legend of Zelda, one of its most popular characters. Not even really knowing like what The Legend of Zelda is. I mean, we do have to talk about mainstream media for a second and how disconnected these people are from the day in, day out gaming culture, and they're probably not going home to boot up Tears of the Kingdom at the end of the day. And I think that reflects when they're referring to The Legend of Zelda as one of Nintendo's most popular characters and not one of the most popular gaming franchises. They may not even know the difference between Link and Zelda. When it comes to the analysts that look at this stuff from a business perspective, they are just people with a traditional job in media. Although I will say on a person like Dr. Sura Kentodo that we have talked about before, that analyst I tend to pay just a little bit more attention to because they are based in Japan. They are at every Nintendo investors meeting and they have given us little tidbits of information prior to Nintendo announcing it before, but for the most part, these are people analyzing business trends, seeing Nintendo stock valuations fluctuate, go up and down, and from a business perspective say this is when it makes sense to launch the Nintendo Switch. And in the decline of current hardware, like we are seeing it trend downward, and when you just do the math and realize how long it's been since Nintendo has launched the original Switch console 7 years ago as of March of 2017, you can look around and see the writing on the wall and pay attention to all of the various reports we've sourced in different videos, like Chinese manufacturers saying they're ramping up metal casing manufacturing parts for a Japanese game company this year, and that's leading to big stock increases for certain companies. Gamescom 2023 rumors circulating that Nintendo's briefing their developers behind closed doors, and a plethora of leaks suggesting that yes, indeed, developers do have development kits in their hands. It is the logical conclusion to say that 2024 is the year, and I wouldn't say that anything that any of these analysts are predicting in this article is really hard to predict. It is actually a safe bet if you just keep up with the general day in, day day out reports of what's going on in the world of Nintendo, and that's kind of where you have to step back and realize this is notable because Nintendo Switch 2 is getting such mainstream coverage now that even websites like CNBC are picking it up and talking to their contacts in the industry, quote unquote, that they are reporting on it. But at the same time, it doesn't really tell us anything new that we didn't already know to expect if you're just somebody who keeps up with the general regular Nintendo news cycle. And continuing on the article, they do outline what they quote unquote know about the Nintendo Switch 2, which again is nothing but a bunch of safe predictions, but you can see this, which says not much at this point as the company has been tight-lipped on what's next. Analysts are expecting what they're dubbing the Switch 2 to follow the hybrid approach set out by its predecessor. I'm expecting Nintendo's next console to be a Switch follow-up as the hybrid device approach has been so successful, Harding said, adding that there's likely to be an upgrade in capabilities to the company's console controllers too. Kantan Games Toto said he expects the successor to be a new device and not just an upgrade. Nintendo needs to drastically improve specs after 7 years, so they will absolutely release the successor, Toto said. Such an approach building on the success of the Switch makes sense to many. An evolution, not a revolution, in the console strategy is likely. In other words, an iPhone model. With that comes the opportunity to ease the 130+ million Switch audience into a familiar but more powerful form factor, and the ability for Nintendo to sell compelling first and third-party games to a scaled audience, analysts at Moffitt Nathanson wrote in a note in December. So there you have it, probably the most mainstream coverage of Nintendo Switch 2 news so far. What do you make of all of this? Do you think this is just kind of comical that traditional media is hopping on the train and talking to analysts and it really doesn't mean anything in terms of Nintendo's broader plans? Do you think that with all of the reports that we've covered here on the channel, plus now these big names popping in, all putting out their predictions for 2024, that it's just that much more writing on the wall that we are indeed in the launch year of Nintendo Switch 2? Or are you somebody who's still on team 2025 or beyond and doesn't think we're going to see anything this year? I definitely feel like there's enough smoke that we absolutely have a fire on our hands, but I would love to hear your perspective if you don't think that as well. And lastly, what do you hope the Nintendo Switch 2 launch lineup is? Do you think we could see something like a 3D Mario game? Do you think it's possible that we're talking about the Legend of Zelda ports finally being in the pipeline? How do you think Nintendo will stack their launch lineup for this console that should supposedly and hopefully finally launch this year in 2024? And bonus, if you had to put your money on a particular time of the year, whether it be spring, summer, or fall, or even just right up to the holiday season around the November timeline, when would you put your money on Nintendo actually launching this thing and it being playable in our hands as Nintendo fans? So regardless of your thoughts and feelings on everything we talked about today, I do look forward to hearing from you all in the comments down below before you leave the video, as I do look forward to getting a back and forth conversation started with you all around these topics. Go watch the video on screen next if you haven't already. Also make sure you like, subscribe, turn on your notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video.